Hi, Plugged In family. I am Kristin Smith.
I'm Paul Asay.
And I'm Bob Hoose.
And today we're going to be talking about the Plugged In Movie Awards. As most of you have already seen on our blog, we've posted our responses for the Plugged In Movie Awards and the ones that we've chosen and those that we've chosen to leave out. And there were tons of questions as to why we chose certain things. So I'm going to let Paul start us off.
Yeah, well, this is actually one of my very favorite times of year. I love sort of getting together. We complain so much about movies.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always counting the bad words. We're always doing all this sort of stuff. This is our opportunity to really look at these movies and see what is valuable, what is kind of a good movie. What can we say with caveats, because all these movies have caveats, so we can say, you know what, this one was pretty good, and we'd like to nominate it for an award.
Because believe it or not only do we look at counting the F words and those types of things in our films, but we also do think through the aesthetics. I mean, it's an important element to what we do in our reviews. Secular reviews are all about the aesthetics, and we try and balance both. We try and balance the content against the aesthetics, but we still are very much aware of what makes a good film.
And we're also really concerned about the message, because I think that's really important, especially when we're talking about kids and teens, but really adults too. I mean, I think that these messages can be super important, and they can be really good or really bad depending on the movie. So one of the movies that I think I was really surprised that stirred the most conversation was really Black Panther, which we included on our teen list. We nominated that for our teen best movie for teens, and we were really wrestling with a whole bunch of superhero movies for that slot.
It was Black Panther, Ant-Man, Infinity War.
And we didn't want to, and there were others too.
Right.
But we didn't want to make it a category of just superhero movies.
5 superhero movies would be really boring.
So we thought it would be best if we just chose one. And we chose Black Panther because of all its strengths. But there was quite a bit of a discussion, especially between you and I, Paul. Because I really liked Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean, it was one of my favorite movies from the year. And part of the reason that I really wanted to get it in there was because it was so entertaining. I mean, it had a few content issues, but not that much. And it had some great themes about parenting. You know, some wonderful scenes and interaction between parents and kids, and I really found it not only funny and fun and filled with action, but also very moving in spots.
And I was really pushing for Black Panther, and I agreed with you. I think that Ant-Man and the Wasp was a very fun, entertaining movie that was surprisingly sweet in places too. But Black Panther, for me, the messages really won the day. I think that the messages were so strong. It felt so resonant in this particular moment in our society. And I thought that the main character, T'Challa, he struck me as not this anti-hero, grim,
like a Tony Stark,
conflicted. Exactly. He was sort of this Captain America type of guy who tried to do the right thing, even in the midst of disappointment and disillusionment and dealing with his dad and all this kind of stuff. I thought that the messages were just so strong, and that's why we
all the very same things that I loved about Captain America back when. When that first came out.
So part of the superhero content in choosing in the teen section, we actually chose Tomb Raider instead of like Infinity Wars or Aquaman.
We definitely got some comments on that.
Yes.
Why no Aquaman? Why no Infinity War? What's with this Tomb Raider thing?
And I'll be honest, from my perspective, Infinity War was kind of dark. I just didn't think it was up to the same calibers of the other films, and partly because it was sort of like a part one.
Well, and that's the
thing.
To come. That's the thing. When it comes to the messages, I don't think we really know how to evaluate this movie until we see Endgame.
That's right.
But you reviewed Tomb Raider, so can you tell us why? Like, what were some of the themes and why you chose it?
Well, one of the things I really liked about Tomb Raider was its female empowerment message. I mean, I think so often we see the idea of female empowerment in films, and people are, the critics are raving about this film or that film, but it's generally where a female is empowered to be just as nasty as a guy. Whereas this film, it was a whole different sort of empowerment. It was all about a young woman who was striking out on her own, doing something she'd never really done before. She wasn't a Laura Croft who was this great adventurer. She was just a young woman who had to go on this adventure to try and find her dad and, in a way, explore and discover herself.
Right.
And at the same time, she was pretty tough. And she was able to make those tough decisions and keep driving forward in spite of all the dangers that are thrown at her. And I thought that was a great message for young women to say, I'm gonna be able to be strong when I need to be strong.
And they stayed away from sort of that overt objectification that
that they had in
earlier
previous
that you might anticipate from Laura Croft because of the the old games.
Yeah, there was still some some racy
and all that sort of thing.
outfits for sure, but it didn't have sort of that slimy feel. That
Right.
Well, part of the teen category as well, and this was a big question that we got, was not just about Tomb Raider, but about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
And why was it in that category?
Why was
instead
it
of
in
the
that?
kids?
Yes.
Right.
So you also reviewed that.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Well, and
Tell us
see,
about
I thought that was an excellent film, and it's also an excellent film for kids. It's a pretty clean film. It's a very clean film. There's really no content in it at all, except for a certain. There are a couple of deaths that take place in the film that could be disturbing for a young child. But all in all, a very heroic, fun film. I think part of the reason that we chose the teen category is because it centers on a teen.
Yeah.
It's all about Miles and his discovery of himself, self-discovery, but also experimenting with who he is as a superhero, as he's coming into his own, and what do I do with these newfound powers?
Right.
And so I think there were a lot of messages that were sort of aimed at teens in that film. Don't you think?
We also have a lot of kids' films to try to fit into one. I mean, there are so many. And the one that we left out was Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Breaks the Internet.
Yeah.
Which
one of the ones that we left out.
Exactly.
And I personally, I wanted that one in the category.
You did fight for that
because
one.
I thought it was a very good film. It had some issues that I think parents might look at and go, maybe I ought to talk to my kids about this in terms of the video game stuff.
Right.
But there were a lot of really strong messages about friendship. It was a powerful, and to be honest, I thought it was much better than like what was the Winnie the Pooh?
Christopher Robin.
Oh, don't even go there. Christopher Robin was delightful.
This was a big conversation earlier.
Movie, but
it was a great movie.
I didn't think it was one that kids would automatically go bing.
Yeah. Honestly,
as
they
much
probably
as you
wrong.
did. But
No,
anyway.
and I thought that Christopher Robin had some really wonderful messages, and in granted, because of that theme of the father and trying to relate to his family and his kids and growing up and growing old in a sense, losing that childhood wonder, that really resonated with me, and so that's one of the part of the discussions.
And the kids will go.
That is not true. It's a great movie.
No, it's cute. It's cute.
So another one that we chose, and we didn't really know where to put this in the category. There was obviously a lot of arguing that went on during this, but we won't do that here. One of the ones was Mary Poppins, and so
where do we put Mary Poppins?
where do you put Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
Right.
I reviewed Mary Poppins. I loved it, and so I think for a lot of adults, it's nostalgia.
And
right?
that's why it ended up in the adult category, because all us adults, we know Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Mary Poppins from when we were kids.
Yeah. Some of us grew up in the area that Mary Poppins took place.
Some of us did, and others just saw the videos. When they got to that stage in life, and others probably still haven't seen the first Mary Poppins because you're so young. But in any case, we decided to put it in adult because we thought of that whole nostalgia angle that adults would really probably be drawn to this film even much more than kids would.
So the adult category is probably the hardest, and we wrestle with where to put
most
things.
fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun, but
To talk about.
most of these movies are really content heavy, and we understand that. And so as we listed all of these out, we really wanted to talk about why did we leave some things out that maybe you guys saw and you had questions about, and things that we discussed and we really saw good themes amidst content. So one of them.
Well, and also the fact is that this is the one category. Pardon me for interrupting.
No.
This is one category where aesthetics really do come into play.
Yeah.
Even more so than some of the other categories, because I think as we've mentioned many times, secular reviews are all about the aesthetics, and we're trying to balance everything in there.
Sure.
But in the adult category, sometimes sometimes they have some really nasty content, but they also have some incredible messages.
Yeah.
And you have to wrestle with that and say, okay, well, where does that land? And can we talk about that without, you know, being offensive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's really a fascinating conversation, I think, because the aesthetics, as you mentioned, they really play into, for adults as they're watching it, both the content that we see and the messages that we see. Because if a movie moves you, if it's a beautiful, powerful movie, obviously the messages are going to stick with you longer.
Yeah.
But the more inclined you are to ignore maybe some of the content. And
Well,
so that's some
like,
of the
like a
things.
film like Roma, which
Right.
you and I talked
Exactly.
about at length. I mean, it's up for an Academy Award, and
10.
and justifiably so.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it is truly a beautiful film with some beautiful messages. But
They
It's-
they have this 90-second
Right.
spot where there is
this one scene,
that makes it an R-rated movie, and because of that, we really wrestled with: do we include a movie like Roma? Do we look at the messages and say these are powerful enough messages that we can not excuse the content, but that mitigate that 90-second
Yeah.
scene a little bit?
and the director
Yeah.
felt so passionately that 90 seconds
Right.
made a statement that tied into the theme of the film.
Yeah, so as much as I really appreciated the movie, the movie's messages, it was really powerful. Really, in some ways, I thought it was kind of Christ-like in a way. I think I mentioned in the review that it almost sort of echoes the Beatitudes in a way, but that period of content, we just had to walk on by.
And that really is the difficult part that we wrestle through when we're dealing with the adult awards. And let's face it, we as adult Christians are wrestling with those very same themes.
Right.
Whenever we're thinking
Every
about
single time.
even if it's a mom and dad going out on a date together or whatever, you know, or adult couple going out on a date, they are wrestling. Oftentimes, as Christians, we wrestle with, okay, should we go to a film like this if we know that there are issues in there that could be problematic? And I tell you, and that's a big part of why we are plugged in and why we do what we do. It's not just for the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, a lion's share of our reviews are aimed at families, trying to help parents determine whether or not they can take their kids to see these kinds of films. But it's also to give adults some information about what's in this film in various areas, whether it be language or whatever content, and so that they can make some wise decisions on their own.
No, and I think it really gets down to the core of what we do. And I think it's one of the reasons why we try to be as detailed as we are in our reviews, so that people can look at them and say, they have to know themselves. I mean, first of all, they have to know what is going to be a problem for them, what bothers them, what can tempt them in some cases. And I think we want to give people, parents and teens and adults, all the information that they need to make a wise, discerning choice for what's right for them and their family.
Yeah, while giving credit to the parts in the movie that actually spoke true, you know, the things that really resonated with us, the messages and things that were...
And getting back to the PIMA awards, those are the elements that we wrestle with the adult films.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, either about movies that we just talked about or things that you would like to see. So if you do, you can visit us at pluggedin.com and check out our blog. Thanks so much.